All right. When it comes to finding peace this year, you have to create buffer in your life. Create buffer in your life. I think that the key part of this is actually making room to grow. We talked about this a little bit earlier in the episode, but I think it's really important to kind of dig deeper into this. When it comes to our daily lives, again, I got two kids in fourth grade and in seventh grade. Um, I run a few different businesses, got family life, beyond my kids and friends, and I got to take care of Damon too, all that stuff. As things kind of, and of course, the normal thing like bills and things. So as those things pile up, excuse me, it's really important to have a buffer for those different parts of your life. I'll give a really simple example. I know folks who will see a gap in their schedule, maybe like 45 minutes, and schedule something in there right there. It's not because they're on deadline. It might not, it might even be a weekend or even during vacation, but they're going to cram it in there for the sake of so-called efficiency. I'm saying so-called because we have different reasons for that, right? But so-called efficiency, it could be because there's guilt and or shame over resting, and so they can't have a dull moment. There's been so many social media discussions that are happening right now, again, as we're talking live right now, about kids who would be resting or playing around or just daydreaming. And then they'll hear their parents or their guardians come to the door after whatever, and they feel like they have to do something to make themselves look busy. That's heartbreaking to me. And with a couple relatives, I can relate to that, to be honest. But that's not an uncommon occurrence. We take that energy with us from childhood, from experiences, from culture. I don't mean like race culture or anything like that. I mean more like just the culture of the families and the environments that we're in. Back to environment, like we were talking about earlier in the episode. But so many folks that I know that have that habit of cramming in their schedule, they don't even realize they're doing it. They're on autopilot. It just is. It just is. It's kind of like, and it took me a while to get better at this, with the work that we do as independents. And as I talked about in the previous episode a couple weeks ago, I think it was episode 441, where I was talking about creating financial goals and better financial freedom and more profit in the new year. Like episode 441. And I was talking about how, as independents, as entrepreneurs, what have you, we tend to get really big checks, four figure, five figure. Some of us are lucky to get six figure, like big checks. But then that check is meant to last for 2 years. If you get $100,000, you're living in a major city and it's supposed to last you 2 years. And you got kids and a mortgage and a spouse or whatever. Suddenly, right? And that's before taxes. That 100,000 is really probably closer to 70. So then you're doing 35,000 a year, and then you got mouths to feed, and this project is taking up your whole thing, but that's the only money you got. So you might be getting a six-figure payday, right? I get into it in the episode again, episode 441. So I digress. But that's kind of the energy. It took me a while, and I'm still creating better habits that I talk about in the episode. When you get that check, it's like, number one, you got bills to pay, right? Stuff to do depending on your situation. But then also you have a gap. And you might have some in savings and stuff like that. And of course, you take care of your taxes, but it's tempting to say, oh, there's a gap there. Oh, well, that means I have this amount of money. I can do this. The same thing happens with our time. The same thing happens, I think, with just a lot of things, just us trying to cram everything in there. It's kind of like going on a first date and you're trying to learn every single thing about the person. Yeah. And I could be guilty as charged. So, as many of us have been. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, if you plan on dating this person for a while, you're in that relationship mode, not hookup mode, but in that relationship mode. You might not want to do the 200 million questions just yet. But that's we tend to want to get to the point. We tend to want to get everything out of everything and just squeeze the lemon or the lime until there's not a drop left. That is, I think, a very strong way of not having peace. Number one, it comes from a scarcity mindset because if I don't do this now, if I don't ask this now, if I don't spend this money now, then I'm never going to get a chance again. So that's one. And I've done whole episodes about scarcity mindset. Maybe I'll do another one this upcoming year since we haven't talked about it in a while. Shout out to Carol Dweck with her book Mindset, which talks about the scarcity mindset. So it could be that. It could be from a place of um, I need to get in here and make this move. Otherwise, the opportunity is going to close. What I found is that there's so few things like that. That's kind of part of the game. There's no difference between those things. Sorry, eating healthy. I actually had a seed in my mouth. But you know what I mean? There's that kind of intensity with that. And if you actually take a breath and allow that space, that buffer between one thing to the next, from this question to that question, from this chore to that chore, from this duty to that duty, from this relationship to that relationship. If you actually allow a little bit of a buffer, then that can give you the energy that you need back. I've heard horror stories of folks in the corporate environment and more structured environments, even startups. What am I talking about? Even in startups, which I know the startup world more than the corporate world. And folks have been so busy, they got meetings back to back to back to back to back to back to back. I mean, all day, where they'll start a meeting and then they'll be like, hey, give me a second. I need to run to the bathroom. So they need to cut meetings off or leave the person sitting there or on Zoom, whatever, for 2 minutes so they can go to the bathroom because there's no buffer. That contributes to us not having that peace. If we can work on finding more and creating more buffers in our life, taking that pause and saying, can I take 15 minutes between this and that and just sit there with a cup of coffee or whatever? I got my coffee right here, but sit there with a cup of coffee or whatever. Can I do that? Am I allowed? More importantly, can I give myself permission to do that? And when I give that buffer, will I allow myself to actually come down? Because we often do not. Two ways that you can go deeper into buffering. First one is one of my favorite books right now, Burn Bright, Not Out by James Oliver Jr. Appreciate you. It was good talking to you the other day. So I want to give you some congrats with a new book coming out. Fantastic book. James is an experienced entrepreneur. He actually founded the Parentpreneur Foundation, and I was part of the community for several years. You've heard me talk about it if you've been a long time listener and viewer of the show. He finally came out with his second book. His first book was several years ago. I have it somewhere on my shelf. But this book just literally just came out. As you can tell, I'm already starting to to dog ear everything. Fantastic book. It's a collection of stories from Brad Feld and David Cohen, who are well-known venture capitalists, to folks in the startup world, which again I can relate to a lot more. Shout out to all my VCs, as well as James's own story. Fantastic short stories, relatively short, about the same size as No Mud, No Lotus. So, nothing too out of the ordinary to read. And the nice part about it is that two things. First of all, they're first person stories. So if you're familiar with the VC community, who are the people that give investments to startups, you know who Brad Feld and David Cohen are, right? Part of Techstars and other groups, multi-million dollar exits, the whole thing. And they're talking about their own struggles, which I love. I love. With my first best-selling book, The Bite Size Entrepreneur, which is included in the compilation, The Complete Bring Your Worth Collection. Again, the link is below. That's what I was trying to do when the book came out, 10 years ago. Yeah, about 10 years ago now. That can normalize us going through what we're going through in the startup world, and that's part of the game. That's just part of the game. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. If you're dealing with depression or stress or shame, excuse me, you're feeling guilt because you're not able to spend as much time with your family. You feel like a failure because your startup isn't working how you like it to, or a lot of people are leaning on you. That is part of the game. There's nothing wrong with you. That's just part of it. And going through this book, that's the energy of the book. You are not alone. Grab the book, particularly if you're in the startup arena and or you're having a tough time, even if it's not startup directly, but just having a tough time with a business that you're building up or that you're leading, check out the book. Oh, 90% of the sales proceeds are going to the Kabila Mental Health Fund. Hope I got the name right. It's Mental Health Fund. And that's going towards giving free or low cost mental health support, including therapists and other things, to entrepreneurs in need. Just because you're an entrepreneur, that doesn't mean you got money. We can talk about that all day. And just because your company is worth 20, 30, $50 million, that doesn't mean you have the money to take care of yourself. Shout out to James. When you buy the book, 90% of the proceeds are going directly to support mental health of entrepreneurs. Shout out to James. I appreciate you. Love you. Fantastic book. Keep going. So that's the first recommendation as far as creating more buffer in your life, because we need to make space for mental health. Buffer in your life, as well as making the space you can actually get to a therapist, get to the doctor so you can get stuff checked out. For my folks that are middle age and up, get your annual checkup, all those things. But you need to have a buffer in your life to do that. You can't be working 24/7. You can't be taking care of your family 24/7 and take care of yourself and create a buffer like you really need to. The second thing I recommend is actually right above my big head. And that is over here. Here we go. The bank rate high yield savings account tracker. Just started working with them over the last few weeks. I love working with them. I love what they're doing. High yield savings accounts are basically savings accounts with traditional or even quote unquote alternative banks and credit unions. In other words, those that are only online but don't have a brick and mortar, physical office. The HYSAs, they call it, have a percentage that is could be 5 to 10% higher than the checking or particularly the savings that you have at your traditional bank or credit union. They're called HYSAs. One of the reasons I did the recent episode as far as getting your finances together this year is because that's been a journey that I've been on, particularly over the last 2 3 years, been locked in. And I'm starting to see the results of that, which I'm super thankful for. One of my biggest steps when I started to bring in more income and be more responsible with my spending was to get an HYSA. Because, like I talked about earlier in the episode, when we're independent, when we're entrepreneurs, we're freelancers, we're side hustlers, we tend to get big checks, and then the checks kind of sit there. Hopefully they won't spend it too soon. The checks kind of sit there, and then we need them for bills. Again, there's been a couple years when I went in my career where I got one big check, and that check had to last me the whole year. Right? Luckily, I was single with no kids at the time, but that you got to make stuff stretch. So we have a tendency to get these big checks, and then we're slowly siphoning them off for our bills, taxes, 401k, hopefully, or whatever the equivalent is for retirement, all those things. We do all that stuff, and then the next check comes, and we go the cycle over again, right? Or maybe a smaller version of that. Your money's just sitting there. I want my money to be active. I want my money to make money. If I have 5 figures and it's sitting there, do I want to get 0.01% interest on it? No, no, I want the higher multiple. HYSAs do this. The first people I went to about HYSAs are my family and friends that have been involved with financial services. And I was like, yo, I heard about this. Da, da, da. So I want to make sure it was safe and all that stuff. The second thing I did is go to Bankrate. I swear. Before I even started working with them, I was like, yes, that's the place to go. Bankrate over here, QR code's right there. Right there? Not, man. The mirror is mirroring right there. And the link is right below my big head. What they do is you click on the link, it's completely free, zero, completely free, no obligation, just free. You click on it, and it'll give you a list of all of the HYSA offers right now with the interest rates, with where they're located, and those other kind of minute details, and also making sure that they're FDIC, or forget the credit union equivalent of it, but for banks, FDIC certified, which means that if something were to happen at the bank, some Great Depression level stuff, then your money is guaranteed up to currently $250,000. So if you got a quarter mil in there, you can go and get the interest rate, and if something happens, you're good to that quarter mil. Most of us probably have a lot less in there, right? But it's something to do that. I was excited to work with them because there's so many of us who have the big paychecks. They come in, and our money's just sitting there making 0.001% interest, and we're happy to get the penny after having our money in there for a year. I want y'all to do better than that. Also, too, they're a partner, so ain't going there for free. Again, I'm mirrored out today. Using the QR code. Oh my God, there it is. Holy moly, my finger is gone. If you use the QR code or the link below, then it actually helps support the channel, which I would appreciate. So you'd be building into the community too and making your money. The reason I bring this up as far as having a buffer is I've had a HYSA for a little while now. Actually, I have a couple because you can have more than one where I keep my money. In having that, it creates a buffer in two different ways. The first way is that I'm literally making money as I sleep. I'm really into passive income. If you're new to the channel, I think I had a whole year's worth of episodes talking about passive income. Just do bringyourworth.tv, search for passive income. You'll find it. Whole series on passive income. So this is the kind of passive income that you literally don't have to do anything aside from get your HYSA. Again, use the QR code or the link below. The second thing that I get from it personally is buffering, because I know that I'm even more motivated to make more money, or at least have more profit. There's a difference to have more profit, but to also to take that money and to do that. So I have the traditional investments as far as stocks and other things, but this is a thing where that money is accessible. And that's probably the last thing I'd say about the HYSA is that it's completely accessible. You can transfer it. For my HYSAs, I can go and say, "Oh, I want to use that money," and it's in my traditional account within a day or two, depending on, of course, the platform and the service you decide on. A lot of the information's on there, and Bankrate is super reliable. Again, I've been using their services. All the services are free. At least all the ones I've used have been free. Been using their free services for maybe decades at this point. They have a long list of things, so they're a trusted resource. Click on the link. You can learn more about HYSAs. Go ahead and learn about the offers that they have as far as percentages. I'm not going to say any numbers because I'm not a CPA, and I also know that sometimes we watch reruns of this, so I don't want to talk out of turn because those numbers change. But those numbers are really good. I can safely say it's a multiple of what you're going to get from a traditional checking or savings place. And of course, you'd be supporting the channel by clicking on the link and learning about the offers, because then, of course, they are a partner with me. That gives you a buffer between taking your mental health seriously and realizing that getting more self-aware as far as how you're contributing or not contributing. Oh, we've all been there to your mental health. Again, shout out to James, as well as Django Degree. Shout out to the co-author. And working with Bankrate with the HYSA. Man, you know where I'm pointing. There we go. Man, the mirror is killing me today. You know where I'm pointing. Not pointing at myself. You can use the QR code in the other corner, QR code or the link below. That'll help support the channel as well as making sure that your money is working for you. Again, out of the 443 episodes, I probably have had like 100 episodes talking about freelancing, independence, entrepreneurship, side hustles, and money. I take this seriously. I'm not just gonna have any old any old stuff that I'd be recommending. So be sure and check them out. And like I said, ad nauseum, you can also support the channel with that. So those are the different ways that we can go ahead and create some peace this year. Um, what does peace mean to you? Let us know in the comments. And as far as things we can do, we want to make sure we build room to rebuild. In other words, if you're going through transition or going through um, a tough time or heavy stuff, or even if you're about to go through a transition or want to go through a transition, build in that space so that you can be in that liminal area because that's part of the healing and also where you're gonna create um, a new normal for yourself. Consistency over perfection. Showing up every day regularly is worth it. I've been trying to exercise more and get to the gym. Of course, I have two boys, so they're wrestling me all the time. We're always play fighting, so I'm getting my workout. But in learning about people who are really good with gym culture and showing up regularly, just like me meditating and stuff like that, which that's already a part of my environment or my habits. They talk about it's better to go in and lift a few weights or whatever you're going to do, get on the stairmaster and all that, and just do that for a few minutes regularly, than to go there and be there for like 5 hours. Because the strength comes in the literally, in this case, physical strength comes in the regularity, not in the amount that you do. It comes in the frequency, not in the breadth of it. Better to show up for 5 minutes every day than to show up for an hour every week. I might be quoting somebody, but that's definitely the stuff I heard. So remember that. That helps us keep things peaceful. Change yourself to change the environment. If you don't like your environment, make sure that you're using 100% of your agency. And if that's not enough to change the environment, it might not be the environment for you. And lastly, create buffer in your life. You want to do that because otherwise, we'll end up stressing each other out and stressing ourselves out too. My entrepreneurial coach, Damon Brown. You can watch Bring Your Worth TV Wednesdays at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. Like I said, I'm an entrepreneurial coach. So if you want to coach with me, just go ahead and use the link at damonbrown.net. You can learn more about it. And maybe we can have what do you call a conversation. I can tell it's the end of the day, a long day for me. I was like, what's that called? We can have a 15-minute consultation to see if we'd be a good match. Yeah, if you like silly slash intense coaches that are help you get to the next level, I am your guy. So what you see is what you get from the channel. All right, it's so good hanging out with y'all. Don't forget to go and check out the HYSA as well. And you can use the QR code to check it out to support the channel and learn more about how your money can work for you. Until next time, remember you can always bring your worth. You can always build from now. Take care of yourselves and others.